Hey guys, we are live, and look who who I'm here with. I'm here with the great men, my buddies that are so kind to come onto the live stream, and the smartest guys I know. To my, which way is it? That way. That's Mr.
Yeah,
Martin.
get the,
G'day, Wes. How are you,
yeah,
buddy?
yeah. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, good.
And the lovely
Hey, down
guy
there.
below me who needs no introduction, the SmokinApe. G'day, Mr.
Thanks for the
SmokinApe.
invite.
Well, thanks for being had, mate. Thanks for welcome to the crazy channel.
I'm still getting everything set up since I was running late.
Oh yeah, we all were running a million miles a minute. I told the guys, I'll be coming in hot. I'm Dad Taxi, so
Yeah.
So we'll see how we go. And I told my daughter, I said, "Darling, you're on the bus tonight," and I could see the whites of her eyes. No, Dad. We'll leave early. We'll leave early. Okay, cool. Right, we'll leave early.
Anything but the bus.
Yeah.
So tonight, guys, oh, sorry, you go.
Oh no, I was going to say a bus would make a very good antenna. Thinking about it, put a mag mount on it.
Absolutely. So, guys, tonight, what I thought we'd do is Wes and I are sort of planning to do a live stream, probably the last Friday of each month, and just to talk about because he's as crazy as I am as far as building antennas and see what works and most don't work, and we're going to we call it the Geek Squad in computers, but this is the Cool Ham Squad, and Ape has very kindly come to hopefully myth bust some of the questions that arise. Now, there is going to be a lot of rhetoric and rhetorical questions thrown out there, and I'd encourage everybody to actually put responses into the live chat of why this is and why this works and why it doesn't, because I feel like we're all on this. I know I can speak for myself. We're going down this massive rabbit hole of like, why is this working? And I have absolutely no clue. And so, yeah, I just feel like if we all go there together, we can learn together and we can share the love and the knowledge. So what do you reckon?
Sounds awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm game for it, man.
All right, Wes. So, mate, I'm going to hand it over to you, buddy. So what are you working on, mate? What are you working on over there?
Okay, well, hey, thanks, Simon. Well, hey, I've been working on a few things, and as you guys know, I'm just about, trying everything. The latest project has been kind of rolling for a while is my tabletop antenna, and that sucker just works. And Ape, I'd love you to explain some of the fundamentals of how this sucker's working. It's you got a camera on it, don't you, Simon? High tech studio here in Saskatchewan.
He's got a camera on everything.
There we go.
There it is. In the garage, in the ham shack.
There's the antenna cam. There you go.
Yeah, the antenna cam. So as you, anyone who knows who's new knows me, that is my tabletop loaded coil. I call it the tabletop antenna. And I guess a few specs, I had to write them down because I built it a few months ago. The whole project was to build a tabletop antenna. I wanted something that was compact, that it could work inside of a hotel room or a Tim Hortons. So I just wanted something very small, very compromised, of course. And I came up with this sucker. So using, I guess, a few online calculators, I wanted to use a 5-foot whip. And what did I need for inductance for a coil to get on the 20-meter band? So, it's... I guess I make it sound simple, but doing my calculations, I needed 12.3 microhenries of inductance on a 5-foot coil to make whatever wavelength that's going to be.
That's only 12.3 microhenries.
Yeah, total on the coil. So
I would have thought it would be more than that, because I think that like with to get like a 17-foot whip, well, I'm thinking 17-foot whip on 40, you need like 35 microhenries, but
yeah. But with this wavelength of a 5-foot whip, what wavelength would that be, right? It's not even a quarter wave.
Well, 17 feet would be an eighth wave of 40. Is that right?
Yeah,
66. So it's about, I think it's about an eighth.
Yeah, I think it is. Yep.
Yeah, so you know what? I just started putting the sucker together, and it actually didn't work off the start. I was really ticked off about it, actually. This is not working, but I didn't have a proper whip on it. I went and took the loading coil, and I started putting ham sticks on it. All of a sudden, I was making a 10 meter ham stick work on 12, 15, 17, and a 20 meter ham stick was working on 30 meters. So it was crazy. This thing was awesome. Then I put the whip on and got her matched up to the help of Simon with his squiddy. I was able to get the sucker onto 20 meters in a hotel room and work North America on FD8. I mean, you could cook a hot dog.
Is that the coil that you had on the back of the Jeep?
Yeah, I had this one on the back of the Jeep.
Okay, it's starting to come back to me. And this is the one that you have a magnet that you move up and down on the. Okay.
That's right. Yeah. And believe it or not, that magnet works really well. A lot of people are saying, well, how's that working? It's a big contact surface.
Right.
It's weird. This magnet, I don't know, they're voodoo magnets, man. It works. And I actually, it is live right now. There's the squiddy Simon has. So I do have this antenna hooked up to my Nano VNA, and I do have it. And I got it on the Nano VNA server or Saber. And Ape, I don't know if it works for you so well, but whenever I go live on it, it seems to crash. So let's pray it doesn't crash.
Yeah, there's an INI file in a directory under your profile. It's not where you launched the Nano VNA Saver from. It's called nanovna.ini.
Okay.
I delete mine periodically because sometimes it will persist settings from a different sweep and will cause it to crash.
Yeah, it's just painful. You're open and close, reboot. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna have to do that. That is a great tip. Let me show you here. I'm gonna present my screen, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do that entire screen, and we're gonna see if it works.
Hang on. Okay. All right. There we go. We go.
Okay. So once you're ready, clicking away. All right, so I got a really wide sweep on here. You can see the narrow part of where the 20 meter band is, just to see where I'm at. Simon, can you put on a split screen between the actual tabletop and the Nano?
Yeah, I can. Actually, Abe, do you know how to zoom? Can you actually zoom in on StreamYard? Do you know?
I have no idea. I have a TO for that.
Yeah. Hey, this is it. This is cool right here. That's good. All right. Okay, let's do a sweep here to see if anything changed. Yeah, that's where we're at. Now, just by moving this little guy here, I'll move the magnet just a little bit down. I'll do another sweep on it. That's where she throws it around, right? So adjusting my loading coil. This is almost like I would call it 3-dimensional tuning. There, I threw it right off. I'll go back again. I usually do a live sweep on this, constant sweep, continuous sweep. I call it somewhat of a 3-dimensional tuning because I could tune the loading coil. I could adjust the height of the whip because it's telescopic, and I also could, which we'll get into, on the counterpoise or ground radials, whatever way you want to call them. It's a big question, right, Ape? What are we calling those? Ground radials?
Everybody's hotly debated.
Yeah, so I'm going to call them counterpoises, because I'm so trained in the calling of that. So I can't really get a good what do you call it, close up of it, but let's see here. I'll take it off. I'm going to take off the squiddy. So the squiddy's taken off. Let's do another sweep without any ground radios.
Woo!
You can't even have a beer yet with that one. You're just like, you might as well toss that into the ocean, right?
Yeah, that's literally off the chart.
Yeah, so hey, I'll plug it back in. Sweep it again. I just clipped it on. Now,
yeah, the orientation of those radials is going to make a difference as well.
Exactly. Now that comes to my next point with this. This is something that I think I shared with you, Ape, and Simon, I sent you one of these. So with this, can you see it? I can't really see where the camera is right here.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So I made this little gizmo here. It's basically an RJ45 jack with dip switches on it. And I could choose which radios I want to use. And this is something that Simon and I have been using for experimenting. What does this actually do? Do you need all 8 of them? Do you need 1, 2? Very quick way. Simon kind of by accident was showing me one time. We were kind of spitballing some ideas, and he was always taking off a wire and putting it back on. And it was kind of driving me crazy. I'm like, man, there's got to be an easier way for you to do this instead of unhooking all the time, right?
Well, and just to interject there, Wes, remember the stream that I did with Ape a couple of Wednesdays ago, and I was asking the same question down at the park. You know, like they're all the squiddies. Is there a magic formula? And what Ape said is that, yeah, they will cross-pollinate, if you will, or cross-couple and stuff like that, right, Ape? So,
yeah, 100%. So even though you're switching those dip switches off, they're still acting as a radio plane for your antenna. They're not directly connected. So because that antenna is so far off the ground, you're not really capacitively coupled to the ground. And those connected radials or counterpoise, as you're calling them, are part of your antenna system, and they will actually radiate. So they're going to behave a little bit differently than a true ground or counterpoise. But because there's conductive material within a quarter wavelength of your antenna, they're definitely going to have an impact regardless of that switch being on or off.
Okay, well, perfect. Well, I switched off one switch out of them, so I'm on 3. I'm going to do another sweep now.
That actually looks, you have even a more closer resonance point on there, but it's just not at your marker.
Yeah, I mean, I could move a few things, but very interesting. I've cut the radios at different lengths and switched them on and off, and it's amazing. I found doing this, 8 of them really makes it. I guess there's a little more room for error with having 8 of them out there, because if you have any of them crossed or in the wrong position, it really throws off your whole readings. It's a little more foolproof just to use 2, but they have to be right where you want them, right?
Yeah, and then the thing is, you're playing a game with them being tuned radials too, again, because they're elevated. I typically use 4 radials just because it's easy, but the sweet spot is like 8, 16, 32. You're better off using 8. The other thing I was going to mention is I haven't watched any of these videos on the magic carpet, just because to me, I think that I'm just not interested in using a magic carpet. So I'm not investing any time in watching it, but I don't believe that when these folks are setting up the magic carpet that they're actually connecting it. I think they're just putting it underneath the antenna. Maybe they are, maybe they got an alligator clip that connects it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's an example that still will work as a ground plane. Because you want your ground plane to do 2 different things. One of them is that you want to add capacitance. So a vertical antenna, let's say like a quarter wave vertical antenna, is going to be about 30 ohms at the feed point. So you add capacitance to that to make it less inductive, and then get it closer to resonance at 50 ohms. So that's adding capacitance is one of the things. The other one is that you use it to minimize ground loss. So you do have current that's coming off of your antenna, and if it hits the ground and the ground's lossy, and almost all ground is lossy, the RF gets absorbed by the ground. So if it hits a radial, then it reflects it back up and squishes in with other radiation coming off your antenna and gives you that big lobe coming off at a lower takeoff angle.
Okay.
Randall says they are connecting the magic carpet.
They are, right?
Yeah, I've got, like I said, I've got no idea. I don't like people ask me all the time, like, should I use a magic carpet? And I'm just like, well, why would you? You know what I mean? Like, I would think that dealing with the carpet is probably more difficult than just laying out 4 radials. But
it is. I did my poor man's magic carpet. I found this in a dumpster. Can you see me there? Yeah. And it actually works not bad, but man, it blows around, and it doesn't pack really good in your tote bag, right? I don't know, but it was free. I tried it. It actually worked really well to a point, but not as good as these squiddies, we call them.
Yeah, so like I've seen there's a couple of different things that folks call slot antenna. So like there's like the 2-meter slot antennas that people build with like the with the dishes that people use for satellite TV, and that has like a cut in it. And I think when you're talking about Simon's tarp, he has some of the tape that goes around and then comes in. Maybe I'm wrong, Simon. The only reason it comes in is because you ran out of space, right?
Roger.
So there was like no math or magic around where that slot is.
Well, so we're going to get onto that because inadvertently, some of the smartest brains on the planet have come back to me and said, "Well, that's the Hilbert's curve," and I've gone into a bit of depth on that, Ape.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Chance.
Yeah, and then so like there's a guy's name's John Portune, and I think it's like N6 NBC, maybe it's W6 NBC is his call sign. Brilliant guy. He talks about a different antenna called a slot antenna, which is kind of like an inverted vertical W. I don't even know the best way to explain it, but I've never messed with one of those because I don't have the space for it, because they go pretty high up in the air. So if I had to vote, I would say that Simon's tarp antenna is his own unique creation, and I wouldn't call it a slot antenna.
Okay, that's fine. Oh, g'day, Don. How you doing, buddy?
So yeah,
and that guy John, you should watch his videos. The guy's brilliant.
Yeah, they're great.
You know, you're the only guy in the world I drink Miller Lite with, mate.
Well, I would say the same thing, but I would drink Miller Lite with anybody. So I mean,
what a privilege!
This is still a Gatorade. I haven't opened a Miller Lite yet. I'm still getting my hydration in, before I start really hydrating with the Miller Lite.
Big John's Ham Shack. G'day, mate. How are you, buddy? And Ape and the guys from Coffee and Ham Radios, thanks for sending Big John's Ham Shack over to this mad crazy channel. Good to see you, buddy. Everybody. Yeah. So now, Wes, this is a big. He slapped me on the wrist virtually the other day for cutting off the Cat 5 connector. So what have you got in your bag of tricks there, Wes? We need to make you solo layout here, buddy. Have you got your little gadget?
Oh, the gadget. Yes, let's get it here. Are you talking about the Squiddy? Are you talking about this guy?
Yeah, look at that, guys. How's that for a little bit of engineering?
Did I spell? Love it. I think. Yeah, did I spell off right? Yeah, I think I did. And there you go, on. Yeah, or no. yeah, this is great, man. Don't cut off the ends. So you guys who are building Squiddies now, keep the ends on, unless you want to just solder on an alligator clip. But idea of this, I just harvested a couple switches because I'm cheap as F, and I didn't buy any, so I just took them off an old circuit board, soldered them on. Move the dip switches around. There's unused dip switches. Obviously, there's 4 and 4 on each side, and this will determine which ones you're going to use. Now, if you really don't want to get into it, you can find out which colors which. I didn't get into that. I just randomly pick them, and the thing is a charm, man. This thing works awesome. I sent you one, Simon. If I sent one to you, Ape, you could probably build about 30 of them for what it cost me to ship them to you. So.
Probably right, but no, it's ingenious. I love seeing stuff like that.
Yeah, this thing, the blurred thing, but it is very, I guess, convenient when you're out in the field and you want to start playing. Get the SWR. If you don't have a Nano VNA on the field, which usually a lot of people don't have one, or
and we call them crazy. We call them crazy people.
Yeah. I just if my red light doesn't scream and stuff on my radio, I'm good. My SWR is good, right?
Now, so what did you discover with these? So guys, this is all part of the rhetoric and getting into this of the black magic, if you will, of RF and electricity. You discovered that 12 meters you need 2 wires, 10 you needed 3 or 4, and then the best for 15 was like odd combinations of wires. Yeah. Easy.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And where you are too, it depends what your ground surface is too. How much do you really need? I usually start off at 4. I'll click them down, see which way it's going, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, that's super handy if you need to dial it in and you're using those as tuned radials and you're cutting them in and out. It's a great way to do it. I've never seen an antenna that will allow you to dynamically add and remove radials like that.
And just I'm going to just interject talking about, if I may, stop screen. I want to share something with you guys talking about radials while we're on that subject, if we may. and I'd love to get your opinion on this ape. So a lot of you guys may be aware that I use 8 feet 9 inch radials, and I'm going to show you why here. So this is from the Ventena Company LLC, and the URL is ventena.com. And what really intrigues me is I'm going to see if I can zoom in here. So this is based on 20 meters. So these guys did a bunch of field tests and so on. And this is based on 20 meters. And what I find quite interesting is if you look at the sweet spot here, that the maximum length for radial length here is 14.5 feet. And then so this axis over here is SWR, and this one here is length. So if you look along here, so there's 14.5 feet. We go along, and there's 8 feet 9 inches right there around the 8.5 feet. I'm going to zoom right in, see if you guys can see. So what is your take on all of this, Ape? When you see something like this, that would you be suggesting you go shorter is better, or with more of them, or longer is better?
Well, what I would be curious about is that, and you did send me this article, and I did look at that chart, but I didn't read all the words because I don't like reading words. I like looking at pictures. And I can't remember, did they give a radial count? So, because the thing is that I would say that it's going to depend on how much copper you have on, or the number of radials. They say often there's a more is better concept.
Right. They do. You know what? I think they do mention that once you get over, you know what? I'm just going to quickly scroll through here.
Yeah, that one picture looks like there's like about 30 of them off of it. So
because I think that even like Uncle Cal over to the DX Commander shop, he talks about more and shorter, and I usually just do the fewer but longer, if that makes any sense.
Totally. And what I actually saw that same video from Cal, and what inspired me is he talked about wavelengths of radials. Or okay, we're going to get onto that. Is it radials or counterpoises? So stay tuned. But anyway, he said that basically the top band, or I think maybe the main band that you're working. So let's say you're working 10 meters. You want 4 times the wavelength of that for your radial system. So basically, I know 16 wires at 8 feet 9 inches comes out to be 42 meters. So there you go. There's basically 40 meters.
And you're doing that on a 20-meter antenna, so you've got 2 wavelengths of copper on the ground.
That's right. That's right.
So that seems like that makes sense.
And mate, I can tune that thing up for everything.
You know,
yeah, it's amazing.
Paul has a good point there. We call them counter radios. You make everyone happy.
Yeah, well, the thing is that somebody sent me an article. I'll see if I can dig it up, and I'll send it over to you guys. And the guy's talking about the origin of the word counterpoise, and he was going back to like ARRL manuals, handbooks to like in the 40s, which I actually have a couple. I used to collect the handbooks, but I started running out of space, so I stopped. And the thing is that there was never really a clear definition as to what a counterpoise was and how to define it. And some people will define it as a radial network underneath of like a vertical antenna. Some people will define it as a single element that is coming off the shield side of your antenna. So like I know people who actually say that in a dipole, the leg of the dipole connected to the shield is just essentially a counterpoise. Now, because it's up in the air and not on the ground, it will radiate just like your coax will if you have RFI on it, or if you don't have a counterpoise, then that becomes the shield side of your antenna. What I always do is I always call a single wire coming off of my antenna a counterpoise. So I'd say like on my end-fed half wave, I have a counterpoise, and the recommended length of that is 5% of a wavelength on the lowest band that I'm going to operate on. But I usually just use 17 feet of wire, and if my SWR looks goofy, I'll cut it and cut it and cut it until it stops looking goofy. If I have multiples, then I'll call that a ground plane, right? And so like if you think about like a ground plane antenna has 4 radials on it. And I guess you could say a counterpoise is a radial, and a ground plane has radials. So that's why I do it, but I have no idea if I'm right. So I mean, but that's just what I say.
Well, yeah. And then And then the question I have for you, mate, is, and everybody else in the chat, is too much? Meaning, so when I was in Australia and Wes was actually in New York, and I did a live stream with the tape measure. When I was on 10 meters, I had, I think, about 12 or 13 feet of elevated radials, had a ton of them out. And I think it was too much because I only needed 4 feet of vertical. So what does that look like? You know what I mean? Like you lose, yeah. So
yeah. So I mean, you are adding more and more capacitance. So when you start messing with antennas that are not a quarter wavelength or a half wavelength or a 5/8 wavelength, and you start using like these just random length verticals, that's where I think that's probably going to make a little bit of more of a difference. The reason I like to have a lot of radials on the ground, if I can, is because the earth is a lossy material and it's resistive in nature. So meaning that if waves coming off of your antenna hit the ground, they're gone. If you think about like our buddy Walt, right? Coastal Waves and Wires, and he kills it, right? He goes down there and he's like, oh my gosh, I talked to myself. I had such good DX. That's because he's near the ocean. The ocean is the ocean water is extremely conductive. So what I want to do when I put a ground plane down is I want to mimic the best conductivity like seawater that I can get. So I'm like, hey, put down as many as you can. And you hear people say, hey, I bury chicken wire and I pee in the yard. They're trying to do all these different things to make the soil more conductive for that particular reason.
Yeah.
But once, like, there's charts in the ARRL book. Like once you start getting around, 64 radials, they start to say it stops making a difference. You can only make the ground so conductive. But what would be interesting to see is when you're nano VNA, when you start adding radials, see where you are on the Smith chart and see if you start becoming more and more capacitive, right? And so what you would probably have to do is add inductance to your whip or your vertical that you're using, and you can do that by adding a coil, for example, to get you where you want to be. And by the way, Simon, I got a lot of grief about you. Somebody said to me, they're like, I thought Simon was your friend, and I was like, yeah, he is. What are you talking about? And they're like, well, he's in a new video that he just put out and he's showing off his rig expert. And because it's not a nano VNA. And so somebody gave me a hard time about that.
Miller lied on me, mate.
You know what? This brings us to a good point, Simon. We could maybe we'll introduce our next big experiment that we want to do. I see that you're just kind of crawling that you want to say something. Yeah. So on Ape's point about conductivity in the ground in different ground conditions, I'll let you talk. You talk on you. It's your baby.
No. You elucidate, Gate, as Louis Armstrong used to say to Jack Teagarden. Elucidate. You tell us what's going on.
Okay. So what we're gonna do is we understand the different ground textures and radios, counterpoises effect on it. I'm going to build Simon's tape measure exactly blueprinted like he does, right down to the type of tape measure we're going to get. So basically nothing's going to be skewed. The only thing that's going to be different is the ground, because I'm here in Saskatchewan.
And he's 1,200 miles inland, landlocked in the middle of the continent, and I'm by the ocean.
Well, you can go to the USGS website. So just do a Google search for USGS ground conductivity chart. And that'll probably include like the first couple, I don't know, kilometers into Canada, which I think gets you boys, because most Canadians live close to the border. And that's right, David. And so what you can do is you can actually see, they measure it in millisiemens. I'm not an expert in measuring millisiemens. I don't know if anybody in the chat is, but what it tells you is the millisiemens per hectare or something like that, acre or something like that. And then you can actually get the conductivity ratings for the place where you are. What's up, FEP? And then you'll be able to tell if your ground composition is much different.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, it is in Saskatchewan. We have anything from farm fields to iron-rich granite, field kind of stuff. So, and my brother makes a point of it when he goes 300 kilometers north of where where QTH is. The antennas just don't perform the same way. They just get sucked up right into the bedrock.
Yeah.
So that's going to be our summer project, right, Simon? We're gonna do a split stream POTA activation, of course, because we love to POTA.
Same frequency, and we're gonna do a dual activation from quote unquote, for the same frequency. Maybe we'll do Victor Charlie Alpha 5082.
I know that part.
We're just gonna and then I'll be able to say to Wes, right, we're on 12 meters. I need 88 inches to be resonant. Where are you at? And then we can start seeing how skewed it is based on soil composition and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's awesome. And the other thing is that the tape measure antenna that you built, Simon, I can't tell you how fantastic I think that is, because basically you're taking $20 worth of stuff that people probably have around their house, right?
Right.
And putting together an antenna and going out and getting coast to coast. You were even getting multi-continent contacts, if I remember correctly, with that.
Oh, I get VK4 November Hotel, Ray in southeastern Queensland. I get him all the time on the tape measure. Yeah.
It's just amazing that you do that with a lot of ingenuity and minimal investment. And then you have people out here buying, I won't name the antenna company, but I think it's like Gecko or something. And they spend $500 on these tactical antenna whips to try to get those kind of contacts. It's just nuts to me that hams are in a position like that.
So based on the saltwater, I just want to jump in and tell you guys a funny story. So there's a wonderful ham. And Frank, you might be able to help me with this. I want you to put Apes and Mr. Mudd's YouTube channels below. Everybody subscribe to everybody. We share the love. But also I've got a buddy in Scotland, Duncan, Mike 5 Alpha Juliet November. So he's northeast of Aberdeen, and he's got the most extraordinary setup on his Yaesu with the like an SDR display. So check him out. But anyway, this morning my time, he's live streaming, and I'm on my Flex radio in Australia, so that's 8,500 miles away. Eastern Europe was booming in, the Russians with big power and beams and so on. I worked Duncan, and he's on a 2.1 meter vertical. He's got 340 degrees of water, salt water around him. He goes to this little isthmus where he drives out when the tide is in, and he's on a 2.1 meter diamond antenna on 20 meters. And I'm on my end-fed half wave at the farm, and I was a 5.5 into Scotland. Talk about long path. So I'm on a compromised end-fed half wave, which is only 19 feet up. He's on a 2.1 meter. So what's that? 6.3 feet or 7 feet basically. But he's got the water, mate. Unreal.
Yeah, it's crazy when folks do that kind of stuff. I love seeing it. And, when I was learning all about antennas, I was very, hey, by the book, this is the way that you have to do things. And then I've just seen time and time again where somebody just put something that cobbled together, whatever it is they had, and made amazing contacts to the point where, I'm just like, if it works, it works, right? I mean, I'm not going to ever tell people that not to do something. If you're getting out there and it's working and you're having fun, then that's what it's all about.
So speaking about something, I got something here, right over here. Making up stuff. I guess I shared this with you guys. I made an antenna today, and I don't know if you guys can see this. I make antenna every day. So you can't get this all in here. It's basically 14 feet of rope. Yeah, it's like a little hangman thing. So let's see if you can see it. Okay, there's the wire. It starts, or that's the top. It goes and goes. I measured off 19 feet of, I think it's 22 gauge magnetic wire. And then you can see it gets really good here coming up. There's the coil. Actually done blurred, but anyway, there's it all wrapped up.
It's like a jump rope is what Don said.
Oh, yeah. So I threw it up in the tree, and I swept it, not with my rig expert, because I don't own one of those guys. I own a Nano VNA. And I hooked up some a little bit of squiddy to it, and I swept it, and I couldn't believe it. Just a little bit of tuning, I was getting a 1.2 SWR on this sucker.
Well, it's like a rope ham stick. It's like a ham rope. It's fantastic.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking I'm going to venture out. There's a certain company that everyone's talking about right now that's no longer going to be here. I'm going to probably take over the business and start making some ham ropes and maybe some twig sticks. I've known to use twigs and pipe.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. You were, I think you sent me a sweep of that in the Discord, and
Yeah.
you know, that's great. I mean, I would imagine you can just hang that from a branch, right, or run it up a
Yeah.
mast and then hook it up. It's it's another example of a super cheap home built antenna that's probably going to work just as well as a ham stick. That's all essentially a ham stick is a piece of fiberglass with wire wrapped around it to
Yeah.
get resonant on a certain frequency.
No, exactly. I could put a piece of shrink wrap or shrink tubing on top of this and sell it off as a ham stick to someone who doesn't know, right?
All right, guys, can I share a screen with you?
Yeah.
You bet.
Okay, let's do this. And so I'm talking about ham sticks, and so I'll be interested to hear what you say about this, Ape. Now, let me see if I can get this to work. All right, so let's. So I've got a piece of dowel that's 4 feet long here, sitting in the corner, and I wrapped. I don't even know how long the wire was. I think it was probably about 7 or 8 feet. And if you can see on the right, I just wanted to see where it is resonant. And so basically, just at the feed point, I put the. I didn't even have a counterpoise on it. I just sort of hooked it up to a binding post, and it's resonant at 38 megahertz. Okay, so then I added a squiddy to the end of the wire, and now it's resonant at 33 megahertz, and the squiddy was only a foot long. Okay, so it's brought it down by 5 megahertz. Now this is where it gets really crazy. So then I added a second squiddy. It didn't do anything. It brought it down 0.5 megahertz. So that basically tells me it's a law of diminishing returns. RF is it's referencing the length of the squiddy and going, okay, you're a foot long. So therefore the SWR or the impedance or the ohms is going to be this, and that's the resonant frequency. Now this is the part that blows me away. So then with the squiddy at the end of the wire and one at the feed point, I don't know if you guys can see that, but what blows my mind is look where it's resonant. By adding 2 1-foot squiddies, I'm resonant. Hang on, I'll just see if I can move this over. There we go. At 27 megahertz by adding a foot at the feed point and a foot at the end. So it's brought it down 11 megahertz. That blows my mind. And why? Why does,
Yeah. The one thing I'll say, though, is that resonance isn't the only thing that we want to look at from an antenna standpoint, though, right? Because if you think about like a dummy load is perfectly resonant, but it's not going to radiate well. So you do have to balance between an effective radiator and resonance. Now, I'm not saying this isn't going to radiate well, but I suspect given its short length and all those wraps on there. So like when you make an induction coil, like the one that we were looking at earlier on the vertical, there's also a relationship between the wires that are wrapped around that coil, and then you get parasitic capacitance. And Hollywood is in the chat, so he can call me out if I say anything wrong. and basically that is acting like a tank circuit. So if you remember from, well, you're not Americans, so I don't know, but from our general test, there's a lot of questions about resonant tank circuits that you can use as filters and traps and things like that. And they're made up of an inductor and a capacitor, as in series. They're parallel to each other, but in series with your element. And so those coils can act like that. And also, like I was mentioning, the dummy load. So a lot of times you can be spot on from a resonance standpoint, like 50 ohms, no reactance, but radiation is going to be a problem for you. Right. Like, so if you you've seen the videos where people come out and they're like, hey, what if I had an 80-meter antenna that was all coil? Well, you can do that, but it's not going to, you know, with like maybe a 2-inch whip on the top. It might look great on your SWR sweep, but it's not going to radiate very well.
Yeah, good point on that. Good point. That's on top of when I do a sweep on mine, I use either Whisper or FT8, and I start transmitting. And I see where basically who's hearing me, right? Just to see if this sucker is actually a dummy load or I'm the big dummy. You know, it's a good tool.
So one day I was going to operate and I turned my radio on and I'm like, wow, these bands are super quiet today. And I was at 40 meters and I just was shocked that how low the noise floor was, but I could see little teeny peaks. And so I started transmitting, you know, my tuner kicked off like it always does. And I'm not getting any ham alerts. I'm looking in PSK Reporter. I'm not seeing anything. And I'm thinking, what in the hell is going on? So I went outside and my coax was disconnected from my antenna. I was able to tune the coax. And I could actually hear some stuff on it, but what I couldn't do is make any contacts. And
right.
I know. I think there's been more than once that I've looked outside and see if my antenna's tipped over or not when I'm playing POTA. I'm like, why is anyone hearing me? And yeah, there's a few times when it's been laying on its side. And actually, I made some QSOs with it laying on the ground.
I can't believe this. I'm going to jump in and do a bit of housekeeping as Jim and
yeah.
So 1979 Iceman. I need to get my trumpet out. Maybe I've actually got it in the car because I'm racing off to a gig straight after this. But the flag is up and here at Del Mar, race 7. So, Simon, are you capacitively or actively coupling your clip to the tape measure antenna, i.e. scraping to bare metal? No, mate, I'm actually not. So,
yeah.
And I started by doing that, mate, but I actually found when I use one of those longer elongated battery terminal clips, there's obviously enough conductivity and contact that I actually don't need to, mate. So there you go. So anyway, so thank you, mate. You're an absolute legend, and thank you so much for the super chat. And there's FEP Labs. There's our brother from a different mother. This is the Mad Antenna Lab. Good on you, Jim.
Yeah,
buddy.
Yeah. He's putting pressure on me to buy more expensive equipment that I don't need. They're shaming me for the equipment that I have. Him and another Chuck, not Uncle Chuck, just a different Chuck.
And Mike Smith, Golf Zero, Romeo Foxtrot Delta. Mate, thank you for staying up so late, buddy. What is it there? It's after midnight. All you guys in the UK and Europe, you're absolutely fantastic. I can't believe how late it is. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for staying up so late. And you ask why the quote-unquote squiddy. Well, I grew up, I love fishing, and we used to use a squid. They had a little sinker. They were rubber squids you'd put over the hooks with a pilchard. They're lethal in the salt water for big Spanish mackerel, and they were. I guess it's a colloquialism, so we just thought just throw it out there and call it squiddy. So there you go. So I want to share with you guys a bit about the tarp.
Oh yes, we're waiting for this.
Okay. Oh, okay. So guys, so here's something interesting. I'm going to bring this up, and maybe we can. Let me stop the screen here again. And so it didn't quite work out as well as I would have liked, but it's a work in progress, right? And the fact is I was able to make some contacts with it. And I did this little video that I'm going to, that we can actually just put in the background. And let me see if I can find it. And it's about the Hilbert's curve. And before we go about the Hilbert's curve, I received a lovely email from, let me see if I've still got it up here. Wrong one, StreamYard, where is it when you want it, right? Okay, here we go. So this is from Lane Donaldson. So g'day, Lane. How you going, buddy? Alpha India 7, Quebec Golf. I don't know if you guys can read that. Hey, Simon, I just watched your video on the 20-meter tarp antenna you made. Love it. It resembles an antenna I'm experimenting with based on a quote-unquote Hilbert curve. It's a way to make your antenna even more compact. It's usually for tiny PCB antennas, but I've been trying to get it working on HF. I'm able to fit a 20-meter dipole in about 40 inches square. It takes a bit of math to find the right lengths for each segment. Think of it like a dipole divided into 63 segments, or for each side of the dipole divided by 31.5. I use the third order Hilbert curve as a basis for the design. See attachment. It can be fed from the center like a dipole. For 20 meters, if you can manage to cut your magic tape into lengths between 15.8 and 15.9 centimeters, it should be resonant between 14.33 and 14.24 megahertz. If you wanted to build this thing, it's wise to lay out an 8x6 grid where each box is the same length as the segment. Anyway, I hope all this makes sense. I love seeing you experiment with this kind of tarp antenna. It looks kind of like what you were doing to get the antenna to fit on the tarp. As to why it works, math magic is all I've got, huh? hope this gives you another interesting antenna to try out. All the best, and then so on. So there you go. So he sent me this fabulous email with all these attachments. So thank you, Lane. And
Awesome.
when I actually look at this, I just did a little video that just to sort of go through. So up on the right is a little GIF of the Hilbert's curve. And essentially, it's basically making these squares smaller and smaller. And the first 6 iterations of the Hilbert curve. So it's like fractals. It's like chaos theory. Now, what do we know about this, Ape? What do we know about this kind of squares and so on?
Well, so a couple of things. One, he's talking about a dipole, and you have a loop, right?
Yes.
So there's so there's a little bit of difference there. And what's funny is that when you were showing me this, I was telling you that a lot of folks will call that meandering, and I think I remember I said it's a way that they design antennas on PCBs to get a longer antenna onto a very small spot. Now, right now, I've never heard of the Hilbert curve, so I'll have to take a look into that. But I would 100% say that both of them use meandering to accomplish the same thing of getting as much element into a small space as you can. And it is kind of interesting that you came up with a similar design on your own without awareness of that Hilbert curve or whatever it is. But like I said, I don't think you had it. You weren't dividing things by 30.1 or whatever it is, right? You just were looking for available space.
Well, mate, in our country and Australia, we actually decided to go metric. Hi. It actually does make it a little easier, but now I'm back here. I feel like all I'm doing is talking in imperial measurements, and all the Aussies back home are like, "What?"
Yeah, like I'll talk to Hayden and I'll tell him. Hayden was like, "How long is that antenna?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's 25 feet." And he goes, "That means nothing to me." Yeah, and I'm like, "Well, ask Google, son. I'm not going to do the math."
Yeah.
Mate, as far as the efficiency and okay, so I've got another little video that our buddy Frank, Wilderness Frank, as Chris, our buddy, Digital Analog Ham calls him. So g'day, Frank. We love you, buddy. He sent me a little bit of audio, and you guys, so Ape and Wes, you might not be able to hear this, but the point is, it gives you an idea of what the difference between what he was receiving the tape measure compared to the TARP. And, he's 880 miles away. So here we go. If I click on this.
I'm on the TARP rolling. You copy? Roger, the tape measure is way better for me. Roger, mate. And, but the noise is way quieter on the TARP. But, what is my signal report on this antenna, mate? Yeah, I got you that one about a 5-3. 5-3 in the second one. Roger, mate. Well, that is absolutely amazing. Hang on a sec. Hey, thanks, Simon. 73. All right, mate, now I'm back on the tape measure, and what's my signal report on this one now, Bruce? I'm going to say about a 5556. That is unreal. Well, that's just made my day, buddy. Thank you so much, and 7-3.
Okay, so that's Kilo 9 India Charlie Papa. So a fabulous
Bruce.
So that's Bruce all the way over there in Indiana, and that's so that's at least what would that be? At least a couple of hops, I would think, Ape, from here to there.
Well, with the tape measure, you're probably getting one hop, right? Because it's got a lower takeoff angle, so it's a more obtuse refraction. With the TARP, you probably are getting multiple hops because the TARP being a loop probably is more of a vertical, right? So you're getting more of a jagged up and down. Who recorded that? Frank recorded that.
Frank recorded that. Hey, Frank, did you was that off an STR or did you record that on a one of your radios at home? So Frank recorded that in California of the QSO I had with Bruce.
Yeah, that's pretty cool that he was able to get both sides of the conversation like that.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, there's an interesting question here, Ape, and where's from Randall, our buddy Randall. I have no idea.
I would absolutely think the pattern has something to do with the directivity. So like if you think about like a hex beam that Chuck is always talking about, so you have the wire that kind of goes around the perimeter and then it pulls into the center. So you have like a big notch or a V in the direction that you want to aim that. So I would 100% think that the locations of those cut-ins or squares the Hiltier curve or whatever it was called, would affect directionality of that. But also that loop is super low to the ground, right? So you're getting most of your radiation is going almost straight up.
And into my head, mate.
That's right. You should stand right in the center of the tarp and have it on the ground.
Oh, I know. I love this, and look, I can't thank you guys enough for coming in. All the wonderful comments that are coming in. But the main exercise of today is just to give you an idea of what Wes and I are working on, and it's wonderful to just and a lot of it is rhetoric, and it just makes me want to actually open up a book and read more, and I love it. I've look at this. I've read so much of this. I've actually ripped the back of it off. I mean, that's my go-to reading, the ARRL antenna book. I mean, everybody should have that, right, Ape?
It's the Bible. 100%. Yeah. And look, I did open my beer because I did want to have a beer with you, Simon. So.
Oh, that's great. Well, cheers to you.
Cheers,
you, mate. All right, Wes, what else is going on up there, buddy?
All right. Well, hey, we're going to be doing something this summer as well, right, Simon? And we're going to get everybody involved with this. And you too, Ape. We're going to get you involved. We're looking for sponsors, and it's kind of a betting game. We're a friendly wager, right, Simon? We're going to be doing sort of a reality antenna build. And all these great ideas come up when I'm in the shower or sitting there supposed to be talking to my wife, and then I'm like, hey, I gotta run and write something down. so yeah, I got excited, gave Simon a call. I got this idea. We gotta try this. And so we're gonna do this thing where we're gonna be making these hillbilly antennas. We're gonna start off. We're gonna maybe be at a thrift shop or Home Depot. We got $25.
Maximum $25 in 15 minutes.
Yeah, and we're gonna get
shopping spree is only 15 minutes. Huh?
Yeah. We're gonna do supermarket sweep it. If you want to go to a grocery store and find, whatever, find some tinfoil. We're gonna get some building materials. We're gonna have a recipe for an antenna. We're gonna truck on over to a POTA park, and we're gonna see how well we do with our homemade antennas. And we want everyone else to be involved with it. We're going to have, we'll have teams, Team Simon, Team Mr. Mudd. Looking for you, Abe, too, to maybe sponsor us if you want to be on our side. Say, hey, we'll get you a little T-shirt or something made up, or a coffee cup.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
I want a pink coffee cup. I swear I want that pink coffee cup. All right, Tim?
Yeah.
Well, we don't have proof that he actually ordered them. Now, he showed us an invoice, but he could have made that in Photoshop or something like that.
Yeah.
He's a little shady.
But it's a great idea. But I love this, Wes. I think it's fantastic. So we got 15 minutes in Home Depot, and then we have to quickly as possible. We go to the closest POTA park, and mine's about 5 minutes away. I know Wes's is.
Yep.
We assemble it, and then so then we have to work. We're still working on the cogs are turning about what's the next part, but we have to be able to make QSOs with each other, and then we work pile ups, and then we get like an hour on the air, and we live stream it, and just fun. And if we do it, if it becomes popular, we can never repeat the same antenna. And so
that's I think I would probably go to the dollar store as opposed to the Home Depot, because I think you might be able to get. Oh, do they have dollar stores in Canada?
Yeah,
so you might be able to stretch your dollar a little bit further.
Yeah, there are $1.30 stores here just with the conversion. That's our plan. Hey, son, what else are you up to? You're going to be in a canoe or anything, kayak this summer?
I am. Well, actually, I've just got myself. My wife knows. I've just got myself 100. Oh yeah, by the way, there's a good deal on Amazon. I just got myself 100 amp hour battery, so I should be able to get out to some of these islets and do some risky POTA. But
what battery did you get?
I can tell you, mate. It's the one that included the charger. It looks like something, a bit of an Amazon special. It's a bit of a no brand. It was 325 CAD, which is probably about 270, 260 US.
I don't know. You could tell me anything, and I'd believe you. I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, no, I've got nothing. I'm really just working on other antennas. I've still got to work on with the metal tape. I've got an idea for the beam, but no, it's all good fun. It's just a rabbit hole we're diving down, right?
Oh, it's unbelievable.
That metal tape seems like magic. You know what I mean? It's like you can do anything with it. I'm going to have to invest in a roll.
So I didn't have a lot of luck here. So here's the 1-inch stuff, Ape. I didn't have a 3/4 inch. I think it's actually 25 mil. So let's say it's an inch. I didn't have a lot of luck with it on the tarp, but this big guy here, this was awesome. And that's 50 meters, and was under about $12 or something. And it's 3 inches, so it's 75 mil. Where is the thing? There it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess a word on tin tape, Simon. Everybody, it's not all equal. Some of the stuff is really thin. So you go and buy it, and if your roll feels really light, or you're getting 300 yards and it's just a little tiny guy, some of the stuff I've gotten is just super thin. It's like tissue paper.
Is there a thickness that you guys recommend?
You know what? I don't even know if they mentioned the thickness on it. Like, I'm looking at this stuff here. So it takes a little bit to tear, right? I'm kind of pulling it. There's I don't know where I got this stuff. This stuff has a different backing on it. This stuff is actually, if you could see
I've got that stuff, Wes, and that actually works better, and the backing is harder to get off. I find that better.
Yeah, let's see if I could focus it here. See how it's like really like glue on it, man? It's like, so yeah, the backing on it's great. It's almost like duct tape on the back.
Yeah, I saw a video where a guy took 2 strips of that and taped it to his window in his living room, and then connected coax to the shield to one side and the center conductor to the other, and made a 2-meter dipole out of tape on his window.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's I mean, that stuff is great. I'm gonna share a little. There it is.
So there you go.
So I'm gonna go grab it 1 second. It's just over here. The latest invention that we're working on. We're gonna just you guys want to copy it? So what? But got this guy right here. It's an 8-foot PVC pipe, and I actually went up and down with the tin tape on it. See if I can focus it here. Maybe it won't. But anyway, it goes back and forth. There's an equivalent length of 18 feet on here. And it actually tunes up on 15 meters. There's a lot of coupling and stuff. So that's my latest experiment working on this guy. I don't know, I'm something about a vertical hamstick kind of guy. So, this probably cost maybe $5 to make.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I like the idea of being able to construct things out of PVC and then coat it with that tape. And that way you don't have to work with aluminum pipe. And there's probably a million different cool things that you could do with that, which would be, pretty neat to play around with.
Well, it's just like, it's almost like coloring, basically, your stickers, right?
Well, you could probably do things like make a mag loop, right? So one of the things that's really challenging about making a mag loop is you have to be good with metal, unless you're going to use coax, like a LMR 400 as your loop. Yeah. But you could probably build a pretty good size octagon shape out of PVC and then just coat it with that tape, right? And make yourself like a jumbo mag loop or something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Which would be pretty fun thing to do.
Well, yeah, no, it's a great invention, and it's repurposed. Simon's you probably nailed it with that tarp, man. That's just unbelievable with that tape.
Well, actually, I'll let the cat out of the bag. So this is coming at you soon. I'll just see if I can make it.
What is that, Mylar? Is that like a Mylar survival blanket?
Oh, yeah. So these are emergency blankets. So one is going to have a 40-meter metal tape antenna on it, and the other is going to have 20 meters. So you can be in the middle of nowhere on your deathbed, but you're warm and you need 100 watts of RF to pump through your body. And you can call, you can do some sort of clandestine emergency SOS Mayday call on your emergency blanket on 40 meters, and somebody's going to hear you. So that's what I'm going to try and work on. I don't know if it'll work, but you never know, right?
Yeah, I wonder how that's going to work, because that Mylar, they use Mylar bags to protect electronic equipment, right?
Uh-huh.
And I don't know why, but they do. And so I wonder if that's going to change the radiation pattern or directivity differently than just like the nylon tarp.
Well, subscribe to his channel.
Well, and the other thing too, what I like about this is if you're low to the ground, let's say you're lying with this over you and you can get it resonant for 40 meters, you only want NVIS anyway, right? You only want to speak 100 miles. You don't want to be speaking 1,000 miles away.
Yeah, and that's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah. All right, guys, the hour is up, and this has been absolutely a fantastic stream. And I just want to thank my mates here, my bros from different mothers. Wes? Well, there's Wes. Now, where are you, mate?
I'm over here, man. Yeah.
Good on you, Wes. Love your work,
yeah,
buddy.
very
And
well, thanks.
It's the Smoking Ape down here. We all love you, buddy. You're a champion.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you having me on. This hour went zipping by.
Well, that's because you're having fun.
Yeah, that must be it.
Talking about antennas. Woohoo!
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Well,
button here. Thank you, everybody in the live stream. Please go over and if you're not already a subscriber to Smoking Ape's channel, go to his channel. Thanks, Frank, for posting all those links. And Mr. Mudd's Radio Time, go check out his page. Like and subscribe. We love you all. And
thanks, all.
As we say in Australia, bye-bye for now. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Ape.
See you guys. See you, Ham.
Take care.